is that with the fall of the Soviet Union, America finds itself in a unique position with this grand opportunity to establish a goal of, quote, full spectrum dominance. If you don't know what full spectrum dominance is, it is basically a policy that is in line with an idea that because America's the good guy, you know, because we're clearly better than everybody else, that it makes sense that America should establish total control over the world, and the means to do that would be to control air, land, sea, and space, and cyberspace, total control. So total control of the skies of the world, of the seas of the world, of the land, total control in every aspect. And the only way to achieve that goal would be to take on wars of aggression to achieve specific strategic tactical goals. And one of the goals listed in this document was to take over Afghanistan in order to facilitate a pipeline being built from the former Soviet republics where you have a stupendous amount of gas and oil reserves recognized by Zbigniew Brzezinski in the Grand Chessboard and other documents as imperative. Like, control of that was imperative in order to achieve this goal of full spectrum dominance. Also, another one of the goals was to establish permanent military bases in the region. And we did have a military base in Saudi Arabia as a benefit of the invasion of Kuwait and Iraq back in 1991 when I was a US Marine and was involved in that war. It was always a bit problematic to have an American base in the supposed holy land of the Islamic religion in Saudi Arabia. Of course, the Saudis are, fuck man, what a grotesque nation that is on every level. So of course the leadership doesn't give a shit, but amongst the natives it's a little bit problematic. And it was becoming clear that maintaining that military base was not very possible. So another military base. So the idea was to establish permanent military base in the region. Iraq was targeted. And in order to achieve this goal, they identified in the document, Rebuilding America's Defenses, they said, you know, we'd have to instigate wars of aggression, and the American people won't buy it. You know, they won't buy into that. So, you know, effectively what they said, you know, the American people are too stupid, you know, to realize how important it is for us to achieve this goal. So we would require something akin to a, quote, new Pearl Harbor type of event. They use that exact phrase, a new Pearl Harbor. And of course, we get back to Pearl Harbor, let's look at that, for Christ's sake. I mean, Franklin Delano Roosevelt knew damn well the Japanese fleet was coming. It's not even debatable whether the US military knew about the Japanese fleet coming. We had goaded the Japanese. They really had no choice. With an embargo of their oil, we would have shut them down completely. And they were coming. And what did our government do at that point? What did our military do? They took the more valuable ships amongst the fleet, sent it off to San Diego, and they left the shit ones there, and they left our fucking American sons and daughters there to be slaughtered in order to enrage the American people into World War II in the first place, because, quite frankly, if you know anything about history, you'll know that the American people had no stomach for another world war. In fact, we never even had a stomach for the First World War. The American people looked at it like, fucking Europeans have been doing this shit for centuries, man. Let them fucking carry on if that's what they want to do. Why do we want to get involved? Well, World War I, of course, we were brought into that mostly by the Lusitania. You know, that's another false flag, another form, a version of a false flag. That's what brought us into World War I. Bloody, nasty, fucking millions and millions dead. Here we go, World War II, it's starting again, and the American people wanted no part of it, and then Pearl Harbor occurred, and bang, whipped the American people up in their false fucking patriotic bullshit, and we enter World War II. You know, and I do want to get back into World War II a little bit as well, but we look at the Project for a New American Centuries document, and they saw the need for a, quote, new Pearl Harbor. Lo and behold, within a couple of years of that document being issued, we had 9/11. And what did we do with 9/11? Well, we did pretty much exactly what they said in the document. Of course, they never could have sold it as we want to establish full spectrum dominance. We have to go fight the terrorists. We have to go fucking after Osama bin Laden. We have to do all. It was always ridiculous. Really. I mean, shame on us for ever allowing these bastards to get away with it. It was always a ridiculous argument. But lo and behold, that's what we did.